I asked to get a street racer to take me out to an illegal street race. And I went out on a Saturday night, and the first place we went was an all-night restaurant, and there were all these rice rockets, as they're called, hanging out, and all these kids hanging out. And I was amazed at the colors of the cars and the way they had been made and designed, and the interracial nature of the kids, and the ease with which everybody was hanging out. I think it's the teenage market that I'm most interested in. I have a 14-year-old son, and I look at him and the way his ideas are forming, and that's who I'm most interested in reaching, because that's where you can really make a difference. You can open up a world vision for a 14 or 18-year-old person that will really change their life. A 25-year-old has already begun to form, he knows what he thinks or she thinks. So it's very exciting to make films like The Skulls or Fast and Furious, where you're really hitting that young audience hard, and they're really being excited. One of the most touching things about La Rapide et la Furieuse is that the first sneak preview, when the kids were asked what they thought the movie was about, they said it was about honor among friends. I watch DVDs between making films. I'll stockpile them, save them, because I don't want to be contaminated or too influenced, because you could see a really good movie in the middle of making a movie, some film like Fight Club or something very edgy, for example, and you're making a movie that's not edgy and shouldn't be edgy, and suddenly you're going, I should make this movie edgy. And since you make a film one day at a time, you could go in that day in a scene which should be very smooth and light. Suddenly you're driving it to be edgy because you saw this dark, edgy, wonderful movie, and you want to make a movie like that. So I didn't want the danger of that, you know. So I don't watch any movies when I'm shooting a movie. Well, first of all, I'm planning the DVD now. One of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to reveal or explain the special effects to a tremendous degree of how we did the tricks, the visual tricks. Not just the storyboards, but the actual stages of animation. I'm going to put new scenes back in that were taken out for various reasons. You know, that there was one scene in particular that I loved that the audience didn't want to sit through, and the studio didn't like, but I loved. I had all the guys. They were building the Supra, all the men in the movie. And they all were there with their shirts off, and they were eating lunch, sitting on the half-finished car. And they were all talking about why they liked to drive and what was their first experience driving. And it was really wonderful because it was an improvised scene. It wasn't scripted. And Vin came up and he said this wonderful thing. He said, you have two lives as a man. You have before you learn how to drive, and then after you learn how to drive. Because once you learn how to drive, your life changes, and you're never the same person again. And I love that statement, because it's true. Once you get that freedom to get in a car and go someplace, you're not with your parents, you're not dependent on anybody. Your life changes and your idea of yourself changes. And that's part of the reason I think people love cars all over the world. It's a symbol of true freedom.